Hello you guys, it's me Melanie. I am back. I actually wanted to do the book tag that's been circulating. It got started by Destiny Sidwell. I will link her first original video in the description. But she and her followers I think actually came up with the questions for this. So I thought it'd be really fun if we do it too. So I have a list on my phone of all the questions and I'm just going to kind of talk through my answers regarding a lot of things about what my favorites, least favorites, all sorts of fun things about the year were, and let's just get started. Okay, so the first question on the book tag is, what is your most disappointing read of the year? So for this one, I feel like this is probably a pretty unpopular opinion, but I'm actually going to say The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I did like this book. I just think it was a bit disappointing. This book was so long, I felt like, compared to the other Hunger Games books. And it wasn't bad, it just was a little bit boring to me. And I know that that's really not the most popular opinion. I know people really are hyping this up right now, especially with the movie coming out. I haven't actually seen the movie yet, and but from what I have seen, the previews, it looks great. And I really think I'll love the movie. I just feel like the book, it was just a little bit boring. The second prompt is an underdog book of the year. So when I hear underdog, I guess I'm taking this as a book that nobody really talks about, or I didn't expect a lot from. And so that book is Big Summer by Jennifer Weiner. So the reason I put this is because I've never heard anybody talk about this book. I actually just bought it at a used bookstore because I thought the cover was cute, and I had seen it time and time again, and I would always pick it up and be like, oh, I love this cover, but then I would just put it back because I had never heard of it. And so I finally bought it and I read it, and it actually ended up being one of my 5-star reads for the year. This is a book, it's kind of like a murder mystery, but it's not really a mystery. I wouldn't consider this a mystery. It's kind of just a fiction book because it has mystery, romance, just drama. Overall, I wouldn't really know what to categorize it as because it's a mystery in that they're trying to figure out who killed somebody or why she died, but it's not creepy or mysterious feeling. So I don't know if that's a good explanation, but I really liked this book a lot, and so I definitely would consider it to be an underdog book for the year. The next prompt is a book that was overhyped. So for this, I didn't put a book, I actually put a series, and I know this is such an unpopular opinion, but for me, this is the Shatter Me series. I've talked about this before on my channel, so I'm not going to go too in depth on it, because you guys are probably tired of hearing me hate on Shatter Me. I just didn't like it. To me, it's just overhyped. Everybody talks about it all the time. They're like, oh, it's one of the best fantasy dystopian series. I just thought it was, I just didn't like it at all. I read all of it, and there's 11 or 12 books including the novellas, so that was a lot of books and a lot of time. And so I kind of it's one of those ones where it wasn't terrible. It's not I didn't enjoy reading it at times, but it's just if I could go back and get that time back and read other books, I probably would. It's just not anything that sticks out to me. I thought it was kind of cringy, and it just wasn't my favorite. I didn't really find any of the characters to be particularly compelling, and the romance, I just didn't really care about. They just kind of made me uncomfortable. So yeah, unpopular opinion, but that is just how I felt. The next question is favorite book couples of the year. So I have two for this, and the first one is Archer and Bree from Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. I absolutely loved this book. I think I rated it 5 stars, if not 5, then 4 or 4.5. If you watch my channel, you know I'm not the biggest romance reader. I do love romance being a subplot, but I'm not just the biggest fan of straight up romance books because I get a little bored, or a lot of times they're just really cliche and have a lot of the same tropes over and over. But I thought this book was pretty unique as far as romances go, and I really love these characters and their relationship. I just thought it was kind of wholesome, even though some really dark things happen in this book. I think that what they had was really wholesome and sweet, and so I just really love them as a couple. And the second couple, this is about to become a theme. I was filling out these questions ahead of time, and I realized that I put this book / these characters for a lot of different questions. So I will give a little bit of synopsis now, but then I'll try and not ramble about it. This is I Hope This Doesn't Find You by Anne Liang, and the characters here are Sadie and Julius. So this book actually isn't out yet. I got an ARC for it, and you guys, I haven't been able to shut up since I read it. I swear, as soon as this book comes out, please read it. It is literally probably my favorite book of the year. Like, I can't even describe to you, and get this, guys, it's a romance, which is crazy. Like, for my favorite book of the year to be a romance is wild. This is probably my favorite romance I've ever read. I was sitting, I had my friend over, right? And we both really like to read, so we were just having like a little reading date. You know, we just spent the day like going to bookstores and all that kind of stuff, and then she's spending the night at my house, and we were both like laying in my bed reading, and I literally kept like giggling, like kicking my feet, and she would like look over at me and be like, "What are you reading? Like, why are you acting like that?" And I just like, I get giddy when I think about these characters. It's basically like a academic rivals to lovers, and usually like things that are so like tropey and like, I don't know, it just usually does not hit for me. But guys, I have never read a romance. Is that a romance? I have never read a romance that made me like sit and like giggle. Like, I literally was like, what is going on? What is happening? And I just like, I would find myself like rereading pages, like rereading quotes. I like actually annotated slightly, which I never annotate books, and I was like highlighting. I read it on my Kindle, but this book, so good. This is my favorite book couple, favorite book of the year, I think. It just, so good. Please read it when it comes out, please. The next question is favorite main characters. For one of them I put Sadie, which is from the same book I just talked about, so I'm not going to continue to rant about that because this video could end up super long if I actually sat and talked about it for as long as I'd like to. The other main character I wrote down was Ariadne from the book Ariadne. I just really liked this book. I loved this character. She felt very unique to me. This is like basically a Greek mythology retelling. But I liked the main character and just kind of seeing her growth as she's like hurt, which sounds like sad, but she kind of starts out being a bit naive, and then as she goes on, she starts to kind of see the truth of her situation. And this book is also more profound, and it has a lot of like, I would say subtle, but not so subtle commentary about feminism and things like that. And I just really enjoyed the main character and like seeing things from her point of view. And I don't know, I don't really have a lot of like smart things to say about this. I just really liked this character. Next one is a book that surprised you. Shocker. I Hope This Doesn't Find You by Anne Liang. Yeah, I really liked this book. It shocked me or surprised me because I just didn't expect that much going into it. I did think I would like it because I've read If You Could See the Sun, I think it's called, by Anne Liang before, and I really liked that book as well, which I gave it 5 stars, but I guess I just like going into this, I wasn't thinking like this is gonna be my favorite book of the year. Like, I just didn't really think that much. I thought, okay, it'll be cute, whatever. But it surprised me just in the fact that I was like I said, I was really giggling, like kicking my feet. I have never had that kind of reaction to a romance book, so it surprised me in the fact that just the like sheer amount that I loved it was just shocking. So yeah. Okay, so new favorite author discovered in 2023. For this, I put Anne Liang. I put her as a new favorite author because I had read one of her books last year. So she's not entirely new to me, but I think like this was the year that like cemented her as a favorite author of mine. I will definitely be auto buying anything that she releases. The fact that both of her books have been 5 stars for me is just like crazy and very exciting. Another favorite author that I put, this one I like don't know if it counts because I've only read one book by her, but I loved it so much that like I will be buying more of her books, and that was Jennifer Weiner, writer of Big Summer, which I did talk about earlier. So I didn't really like have a lot of things to put down for this one, but I definitely want to read more by Jennifer Weiner, so I don't know if it really counts since I only read one of her books, but I did like love her book so much. It's definitely top 5 out of the books I read this year. The next question is happiest read of the year. What I actually wrote down was the Harry Potter series. So I actually this year reread like the big 3. I reread Harry Potter, The Hunger Games, and Percy Jackson. And honestly, Percy Jackson or Harry Potter could go for this being the happiest reads of the year. I wouldn't say these are the happiest books ever, but they make me the happiest because they're so nostalgic and fun. So I put the Harry Potter books, I've been reading them kind of in like the holiday season, and I feel like it's just so fitting, and I just feel so happy when I'm reading them. So that's why I put these. The next one is the most frustrating book I read in 2023. So this one was kind of hard for me because I don't feel like I actually read anything that was extremely like frustrating or terrible this year. I read a couple books that were like mid, like they were just whatever, but I didn't actually DNF any books, And the one book that like I would say I liked the least, I don't really want to rag on because it was an ARC I got and it was like an author's debut, so I don't want to be like, wow, that was such a terrible book, you know? Because I wouldn't say it was terrible, it was a debut and whatever. But, so I would say the most frustrating book I read was Paris for One by Jojo Moyes. This was the first book I've read by Jojo Moyes. I wanted to read a Jojo Moyes book because I watched Me Before You, the movie, and it was literally heartbreaking. Such a good movie though. And I kind of like didn't know if I want to read the book because I already know exactly what happens. So I picked up Paris for One, and I just like really thought this was not a good book at all. I was super bored while reading it. I thought it was like the most cliche, just bleh book that I read this year probably. And so wasn't really the biggest fan. So I guess I would say it was frustrating in the fact that like I just expected more from it and I thought it was boring. I probably should have DNF'd it, but it was just quick and easy to read, so I continued. And like half of the book is Paris for One, and then half of it has like short stories. Some of the short stories were pretty good, nothing crazy, but the actual book Paris for One, like I did not care at all. The next question is the best adaptation of the year, and I put Daisy Jones and the Six. So for this, I feel like this is kind of a no-brainer. I mean, it's either between this or The Summer I Turned Pretty, but I definitely just loved Daisy Jones and the Six so much. The fact that they actually made all the music and it was that good, excuse me, it literally was on repeat. Like my Spotify was just Daisy Jones and the Six for like 2 months after I watched it. So good. The acting was good. They kept like very true to the storyline, and the little things that they did change, I feel like I couldn't even be mad at. Like it was just so good. I enjoyed it very thoroughly, and I thought the casting was like on point. Like I could not picture anybody else as those characters. It was so perfect. So the next ones are the longest book I read and the shortest book I read. And here I have Goodreads tells me the longest book I read was The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is actually 517 pages, which is not that long. I feel like this year I kind of prioritized reading a lot of books rather than long books, and that's something that I will talk about later. But the shortest book I read was The Prince by Kiera Cass. This is a novella that goes in between the Selection and the Elite, part of the Selection series, and this book was only 64 pages long. Next ones are my favorite covers. I'm actually going to get these to show you guys in person. Okay, so I have 3 books for this. The first one being The Summer of Broken Rules. This was a book that was actually kind of disappointing to me, but I do love the cover. It is so pretty. I love the colors, and it's one of those books that's like matte, I guess. Like it has that like, I don't know how to describe it, the texture, but I really like it, and I also think it's really pretty. The next book is Piranesi. I guess that's how you pronounce it. I actually don't really know. This book has kind of like gold foiling or like embossing on the bottom, and I just think it's so pretty. And then the last book is The Alchemist, which is just so pretty all around. And then a book that you haven't stopped thinking about, I'll keep this short. It's I Hope This Doesn't Find You by Anne Liang. The cringiest book I read this year, I put the Shadow Me series for this. I already talked about this earlier, why I don't like it. I just like the relationship for me. It cringed me out. It was very much like he would destroy the world for her, blah blah blah. It's just like it's not for me. I just don't like it. I know a lot of people do. It's just not for me. The next prompt is an unpopular book that I loved, and for this I put Ariadne, which I talked about earlier. I just haven't really heard anybody talk about this book, and I think it is such a great book. If you're somebody who likes Greek mythology, I really highly recommend it, and it's pretty quick and easy to get through, and I think it has some really important themes, but it's still not too heavy. The next one is highest and lowest rated books I read, and do I agree? So for this, the highest rated book that I read was Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. So I'm in the middle of rereading Harry Potter. I've read the first 3, and this one has a rating of 4.58. I rated it 5 stars, so yes, I definitely do agree. I love the Harry Potter series, and I probably will rate all the books 5 stars because they're just like all-time favorites of mine, so I can't really imagine myself giving anything lower than that. The lowest rated book that I read this year was My Favorite Color Is You, which has a rating of 3.37. I received this book as an ARC, and I would agree, I was not really a big fan of this book, but it was the author's debut novel, and I think that they had like some good potential, just maybe need like a good editor and maybe like take a little more time on the book. It just felt a bit rushed, but it wasn't terrible. But I do agree with the rating. The next prompt is, what are some of my favorite quotes from the year? I have quite a few, so I will read them to you guys. I feel like a bit weird just reading quotes out loud, but for the first one I have, this is from The Blind Contessa's New Machine. This is a book I haven't actually mentioned, and let me see, I'll show you guys this book. This is another one that I really like the cover of. It's just kind of interesting. I've never heard anybody talk about this. I saw this at a used bookstore and I got it, and I really, really liked this book. Basically the premise, which is important to understand the quote, is that this woman is, this is kind of like, I'm not sure when this is set, but it's definitely like a long time ago, like maybe 17 or 1800s, I'm not really sure. But anyways, it's about a woman slowly going blind and people don't believe her. For instance, like her dad doesn't believe that she's going blind, and the man that she is engaged to and then later married to basically thinks that she's like making it up and kind of gaslighting her. And there is this other man who is the only one who kind of like cares about her and believes that she is going blind, and he creates the typewriter, which he basically builds so that she can write letters even though she's blind. A very unique book. It's very interesting and I really loved it. I highly recommend this if you're someone who really likes classics but kind of have run out of classics to read. I really, really recommend this. But the quote I have from here has to do with the fact you have to know that she's blind for this to make sense. But it says, "For a moment, the impression of him standing at the bottom of the stairs, his blue eyes so bright they seemed lit from within, was so strong that she was surprised when the moment passed to find herself still blind." Like, that is so beautiful. She's just like basically aware of the fact that he's standing there, and like she's so overcome by the emotions that she forgets that she's blind. Like, hello. Okay, anyways, moving on. The next one I have is from Ariadne, and I actually have two from this. These, y'all, just listen. Just take a seat, close your eyes. This one is, "I felt his heartbeat beneath his breast like a mortal man. It was all too easy to forget that he was not." The second one. This one is really the one. "I will love you when you are shriveled and ancient," he said, an intensity in his tone that I had never heard before. I had been staring determinedly away, up at the stars beginning to glimmer in the night sky, but at this I turned my face to his. He had never spoken like this to me, and my heart pounded painfully, despite myself. "Can that be true?" I whispered. He took my hand in his. "I can go anywhere in the world that I choose," he said. "A god's freedom is limitless. But I only want to be here, milking goats and talking with you." Basically, she falls in love with a god, and he's like, "I can literally like teleport wherever I want, I can go wherever I want, but I'd rather be here milking goats and talking to you." The last one I have is from I Hope This Doesn't Find You. So if I haven't already convinced you to read it, maybe this quote will. So this one is, "How can you even tell the difference between liking and loathing someone, physically speaking? How do you know if your blood pressure is rising because of how annoying they are or how attractive you find them? If your hands are shaking because you're holding back from strangling them or kissing them?" I'm just thinking of the characters, y'all, and it's just so good. It's so good. Okay, so moving on, now that I've embarrassingly read all those quotes out loud, that was painful to do, and I know that editing that is going to be even more painful. So good luck to future me. The next question we had was, what was the book with the most unique concept? For this one I also said Piranesi. Would you like me to explain the concept to you? Guess what, I can't. I read this book and I loved this book, but I don't understand what it was about, okay? I do understand the general like idea by the end of it, but I can't like even explain it because it would give the whole thing away. About 90% of this book, I had no concept whatsoever of what I was reading, and it's entirely beautiful and you should read it. Like, again, if you're someone who likes classics but you've run out of classics, read this book. I can't tell you what it's about though. Like, I don't know how to explain that to you. You'll just have to read it and figure out for yourself. This book made me feel so stupid. It made me feel like I didn't have a brain in my head. I'm like a generally pretty smart person, but this book, like, I just read it and I was like, wow, I'm stupid. I don't know what this means, but it's so good. And the concept is extremely unique. I can't tell you what it is because, like I said, if I were to explain it to you or try to explain it, it would just give away the plot. you just kind of have to like go with it, and if you feel like I don't understand it, like I don't know what's going on, like just keep reading it. It will kind of make sense. Will it ever fully make sense? I don't know, maybe you're smarter than me, but I really did like this book. I think I rated like 4 or 5 stars. So I recommend it, but it is unique and I don't know what it's about. The next prompt is a book that I would reread, and for this one I put Davy Jones and the Six. I definitely plan on rereading this, hopefully next year. Not really sure when. Super quick book, super good. After watching the show, I kind of want to reread it. I really loved this book, and I'm not really a big rereader unless it's like things that I read as a kid, like Harry Potter and like a big series, but just in general I don't like pick up a book again for a second time, but I do really love this book and want to read it again. Alrighty guys, so to end off this video, I'm going to be doing a reading goal reflection and telling you guys my 2024 reading goals. So my reading goal in 2023 was to read 50 books, and so far I'm not there yet, but I still have 10 days and I have to read 3 more books. So I've read 47, and I definitely plan on hitting 50 by the end of the year. I've been reading like pretty short, quick books to try and get there in time. As far as the reflection goes, I'm like glad that I'm hitting it or getting close to hitting my reading goal, but I feel like I do want for 2024 my reading goal to be less. So I think I'm going to go with 40 books, and this is going to kind of go into the next question / prompt, which is priorities in 2024. And so I'm going to kind of combine these 2 prompts. Basically, my priorities in the next year are to read more books that I'm interested in reading, which sounds stupid, like why would I have ever read books that I wasn't interested in? And it's not really that I haven't read books that I've been interested in, it's just that I haven't really been mood reading. Like, I've been picking short books because I want to get to my reading goal. And so as much as I love the selection, I probably wouldn't have reread it right now because I would have rather continue read Harry Potter. But the next Harry Potter book I have to read is like 800 pages, so I was like, I need to hit my reading goal. I read some random like 120, 150 page books just because I wanted to reach the reading goal, not really because I was interested in the books. And so even though I've enjoyed my reading a lot, I really want to prioritize books that just are like calling to me. Like if I want to read that 800 page Harry Potter book, I want to go ahead and just do it instead of worrying about how many books I'm hitting. So right now I'm saying 40 for my goal, but I actually might even lower it to 35. I'd rather just read books that I want to read, that I enjoy, not just because they're short. And like ultimately the number really doesn't matter. I hope you guys enjoyed. I also just want to say thank you for the past year. Although my channel is small, it is still something really fun that I enjoy doing, and I basically started about a year ago. So I just want to say happy birthday to my channel if you are someone who's watched since the beginning. That is crazy. Even though my channel's small, it's still crazy to me that I have like 80 subscribers. Like there's 80 people who want to watch me talk about books. It's kind of weird, especially because I'm used to my family being like, stop talking about books, like we don't want to hear it anymore. I'm like, wow, y'all like subscribe and care about that, so it's kind of crazy. So thank you guys for sticking around. I really appreciate it, and I really have been having fun doing this for the past year. Hopefully next year I can get a little more consistent, maybe post a little more, but we'll see. No promises. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!